Hey now, everybody. Welcome to Ep.3 of Carrick's Car Wreck with Ray from Maryland. My guest today is a radio guy. He's been in TV. He's a musician. And I've talked to this guy before, and he has incredible stories, and I really think you'll enjoy this one. And his name is Bob Kanish. You might know him from the fan page, the fans of Eddie Trunk Nation, and that one. But just an amazing dude, and I'm so glad he's given me some time here. So without further ado, Mr. Bob Kanish. Bob, how are you, brother?
I feel like there should be like trumpets blaring or something, man. That was amazing.
Well, if I had Fred Norris from the Stern Show, maybe I'd have a drop guy, but this is a little more low budget.
Either that or have Jackie like showing you little slips of paper and stuff.
Exactly. No. This is a one-man show.
Ray, thanks for having me on, man. I've so enjoyed listening to Derek and John. And I definitely feel like one of those kindred spirits that they talked about. This, like you were saying, this bond that we share over being way too geeked out over this music and loving how geeky we are about it.
Yep, it's a media bond every time. I mean, as soon as you meet somebody that's into rock or metal, it's like you instantly have this sort of connection, which is, it's unexplainable because it's like a friend immediately.
Oh yeah. And that's the good side of it. There's that's the wonderful thing about that is just these sort of friendships that developed even though we haven't really, I know y'all have met each other, but I haven't met any of you guys yet, but I feel like I know you already. So yep. Thanks for making me a part of this, man.
Oh, I thank you for doing it. And I know how we first connected. You messaged me one day out of the blue, and I don't even think you were on the fan page at the time. No, I wasn't. If I remember correctly, and you messaged me, and it was the day after Eddie put me on with Mick Mars. And I remember you telling me, and it meant so much because I was like, oh, wow. And you said you had like some sort of trepidation of who Eddie's going to put on with Mick Mars. And I think he only took two calls, whatever it was. And then you said you had a sigh of relief when he said Ray from Maryland. It's like, okay, Ray won't screw this up too bad,
Right. You're in good hands. All you would need is for one of those Nation callers to get through.
Right. Mick, what the hell's going on with Vince Neil? He's all fat.
Mick. Yeah. Hey, Mick. What do you think about the guy in Motley Crue now, John Ford? What do you think about him?
My favorites are ones that go, I really love Too Fast for Love and Shout at the Devil. Why didn't you guys do any more records after that? You'll get those. My favorite one Monday night, Bob, and Amber and I, my wife, lost it. One guy called in and he goes, man, I wish you'd do this show every day. And Eddie explained that he does a show every day. Yeah. And you can call in on that. And he goes, oh, well, I'm not available for that one. And he goes, well, it replays. There's a replay every night and it's on the app. And then the guy actually asked, can I call in on the replay? It's like, yeah, you can call, but
but people do stuff like that, man. Like, when I was working in public broadcasting out in San Diego, we would raise money by putting on like pledge programs, and there would be a limited offer for just when that program was on. Like once it was over, it was sold out, it was done. I used to have people watching it like 2 weeks later on their DVR going, well, it says right here, if I call in right now, I can get blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
It's the exact mentality. It's crazy.
It's the same thing. It's the same thing.
It's like they constantly time travel in some weird way.
Yeah. They can't grasp the fact that this happened 2 weeks ago. It's just insane.
Yep.
But, I don't even, getting back just real quick to the Hair Nation thing. I don't see the Hair Nation show and the Faction show as being connected to one another, other than the fact that they're done by the same person.
Right.
The guy who puts on Hair Nation, and cracks a beer every time Nothing But a Good Time comes on, he's not going to want to sit and listen to Max Norman talk about baking reel-to-reel tapes.
You're exactly right.
I just don't see the parallel, and I don't understand why Eddie can't get that through his head. It drives him nuts, and they're two different shows.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway.
He promotes his daily show at least 50 times every time he does a Monday night show, and I feel bad for him. He goes, again, I will say I have a daily show Monday through Friday on 103 Faction.
It's not his audience.
And it's
not his audience.
Yeah. But
these are people who just want to listen to the same songs over and over again. There's nothing wrong with that.
Absolutely, and Nothing But a Good Time's a perfect example. That sort of.
Oh God, yes.
Yeah. But hey, man, I gotta ask you about a couple of things because I know
Please do.
A couple of things about you because we've talked before on the phone and messaged each other, And I remember you mentioning something about playing classical music at 7 years old on some radio station. And then years later in the 80s, you hosted a weekly metal show. So
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah. So what's that?
Okay. Well, it's, one thing I don't think that we've mentioned yet about me is that I was born blind.
Well, yeah, that was for you to mention, not me.
Right. So I have no light perception. I've never seen anything, and a lot of blind people, it's we get into radio, we get into music, we get into things that stimulate us, our ears. So I just was like one of those natural radio geeks all the way from the beginning, and I was like, I had wires running all through my room, connecting all my antennas together. I was like 6 years old, Ray, when I was doing this.
Wow.
At 6 years old, I could already do Morse code because I was studying to get my ham radio license. At 6 years old, I was doing this.
Oh, wow.
So
that's incredible.
I'm a little strange.
No, that's not strange. You had
but I was real super into it. So luckily for us, where I lived in New Jersey, about 12 miles down the road, the high school there had a fully working FM station, WCVH-FM. And when the weather was right, you could pick it up all the way down in Philadelphia. I mean, you could get it about 30 miles in any direction. So it was a legit FM
that's a
signal.
Decent radius. Yeah.
Yeah. And so they had a broadcasting vocation that they taught out of that school. And when I was 7 years old, 1976, I was 7 years old. My mom took me over there. She had called them and checked to see it was all right and all that. But I went over and I got to check out the radio station. This was back in the days with the console and the turntables and the cart machines and the old reel-to-reel machines, all of that. And so there was a block of time on Thursday afternoons from 2 to 4 where they played classical music. And it was a real easy gig because you would just, you didn't have to crossfade anything. You just put the records on, the side would play out while you'd flip the record while you played a public service cart. So even at like 7 years old, I was able to figure that out. So my mom used to drive me down there. I only got to speak maybe once or twice on the air because, it's classical music. You're not talking all through it.
Right.
But that's
not
my
not not
first.
not many lyrics to sing along to.
Right, exactly. So that was my first experience with radio broadcasting. And then when I was in high school, 10 years later, I took that entire broadcasting vocation for the year. They would bus us down there every day, and we'd learn all about radio broadcasting and all the facets of broadcasting. And we all got to do shows on the station. And at that point, I was very heavily. It's interesting. I got into music so early that by 17, I was already done with hair metal and onto thrash metal.
Right.
So it was very much a thrash metal show, a lot of underground stuff, and it was a great show. It had a real loyal following, and I did that every Wednesday for about 3 years from 86 to 89. Somewhere I've got a couple of cassettes of the shows.
I'd love to hear them.
Yeah, I'd love to find them. If you want to go through this big cardboard box for me, you're more than welcome.
Well, I'd also have to go to Tennessee, so that sounds like a little bit of work.
Yeah, all right, then maybe you don't need to hear it that badly.
No, I want to hear it. I know you can find it and then send it to me. I know how you roll. You're pretty good with that stuff.
Yeah, oh man, my whole life is in there.
Now, how long was the metal show as far as each week?
It was
like
2 hours.
Hour? Oh, 2 hours. That's cool.
It was 2 hours, and we took requests, and I brought in all my own records because they didn't really have any like underground thrash in the music library. So I used to bring all of my records in milk crates.
Yeah, right.
And,
I remember the milk crate stories.
Yeah, so I'd have like 2 or 3 milk crates full of stuff. It's a good arm workout before you go on the radio.
Right.
And
loosen up a bit.
Yes, but it was a lot of fun. I got to know, because thrash back then was such a close knit community because it wasn't really that big yet, and so I got to meet a lot of really nice people that way, kind of like the way the fan page is now, for Trunk Nation.
Yeah.
The radio show was kind of a forum for all the people who like the same kind of music to meet up and stuff. So it was a ball. I had a great time with it. That's as far as I ever went in on the air radio doing shows. After that, I went on to college and got into the business side of it. But I did, for a number of years, do internet radio. For about 20 years, I did that, and that was a lot of fun.
Oh, what was the format with that?
Well, I've done a bunch of different ones. The first one I did was called the Bad Bob Brouhaha. And
I like that. I like brouhaha right away.
You like brew. You just like the brew.
No, I like the word brouhaha too. It just happens to have brew in it.
Exactly. But that was a fun show because what I did was I took classic rock and put like a bluesy inflection in it.
Uh-huh.
So we got to play a lot of blues tunes and a lot of classic rock tunes, and I used to do this segment called Where Did That Come From?, where I would take a really famous classic rock song and do all this really geeky research and trace its origins all the way back through blues and play all the songs that led up to the song that everybody knows. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and like it, man. Dude, you're blowing me away actually with your stories. I love your stories.
What I did? I did metal shows. I even filled in and did a country show once.
Yeah. How was that?
Well, it really wasn't that bad. My parents are huge country western fans, so the very first music I heard when I was too young to even know what music was,
Gene Autry,
was old school country. Now I'm talking about like Merle Haggard.
Well, see, I do like the old school guys.
The old school stuff. That stuff was great.
They had real stories to tell. It wasn't even Now it got so polished, just like even some rock music did in the 80s.
Yeah.
Back then it was like just basically a song. I love 70s AM radio. And there were a couple of channels on Sirius XM, like 7 on 70s. And it sounds just like it takes me back to being a kid. Listening to AM radio in the 70s. And
okay, Ray.
Huh?
I am gonna hook you up, brother.
Go ahead.
I am going to hook you up because for about 2 years on a station called ACB Radio Interactive, which was a big internet station, I did a show every Thursday called the All 70s Extravaganza Bonanza.
Bonanza.
Yeah, exactly. And dude, I ran my voice through the big reverb that they used on AM radio back then.
Good morning, everybody. You're listening to WJDY. Yeah.
Hey, it's 7 o'clock in the morning, everybody. Here I am with I got my finger on the trigger of the hottest 45s in town. I'm shaking the lakes and rocking the docks and stinking the weeds at the beaches. The Ayatollah of rock and roll with a round mound of sound.
Oh, you're fucking great, man.
Yeah, dude.
That's good. But what I mean, hold real quick and then elaborate. What I loved about those days, I thought we were exposed to, so many genres of music because I would hear Kenny Rogers and then Casey and the Sunshine Band and then a Black Sabbath song and then a Kiss song. And then I'd hear, whatever country, disco, whatever was kicking. And I thought now people are don't have that sort of exposure to it, and you get to pick and choose the genre. And it's like one person's all rap, so you don't know rock. One person's all pop, so you don't know country or whatever. So I love that era because we were exposed to so many different kinds of music, and that's a as long as it was a hit. That's a lost thing.
It is. Once programmers started what they call super serving their audience.
Yeah.
Which basically just means only playing like the 20 songs that they know they like. That's unfortunately what kind of took a lot of that diversity out of radio. Yeah.
Absolutely.
AM radio back then was amazing. And then oh my God, I mean back then if you ever switched over to FM radio, it was the Wild West.
Oh yeah, I remember. We're the same
Wild
age,
West
so
on FM radio. Yeah, like, yeah, man.
Hey man,
I
gotta ask you about another story.
Talk to me.
Oh man, he was in the. What the hell? His name's slipping my mind right now. You mentioned a story where you played with Buddy Miles somehow and met him, and I know he was in the Jimi Hendrix Band of Gypsies. So
he was. Yeah.
What was that? Yeah. And what is that story? Because I could listen to your stories all day, Bob.
Oh man, yeah. This was back in 1996, and Remember I was telling you before we started recording about a band that I was in that was about to go on tour and I left because I didn't want to leave my job?
Yes.
It was in that band that through whom I met Buddy Miles, because what they used to do is up in upstate New York every August, even on the years that weren't like the big anniversaries, there used to be like a couple hundred, maybe 1,000 people that would go up there and camp out like that weekend of when Woodstock was. And so the guitar player from that band, who was a real hot shit guitar player, his name is Joe Stubbe. You can look him up online. His band's called Joe Stubbe and Rocking Horse.
Okay, I'm not familiar.
Stubby. Yeah, I play harmonica on their first record.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah. Well, yeah, because I was
Yeah, oh,
Yeah,
dude,
I mean, and after I left
that
the
was
band,
what I was going to segue to.
mhm.
You're a musician. You're a drummer
Yeah,
for sure. And apparently
drummer, keyboards.
apparently you blow the harp too. But
Yeah, I play keyboards. I play harmonica. I sing. I play drums. But anyway, so yeah, so Stubby was up there, and he ran into Buddy Miles at this thing, and the two of them just started talking, and I mean, Buddy Miles was a super incredible, wonderful, nice human being, and so Stubby and Buddy just got to talking, and so Buddy got real interested in the album that we were working on at the time. I was still in the band at this point. And so he got interested in the record we were working on, and he came down to this little studio in New Jersey, the name of which escapes me. And you can look up this record. It's called Searching the Constellations for Love by Joe Stubbe and Rock. Yeah, Joe Stubbe and Rocking Horse. Wow. I play harmonica.
You might have to send me the link on that. That's too many words for a person at my age.
I will.
Remember.
I will.
Cool.
Yeah. So Buddy came down and played drums on one track, and I remember he found this old Ludwig snare drum, one of those old, real clangy ones that go bang when you hit them. And he just fell in love with the things. And it's the only track on the record that has that really obnoxious drum sound. And it's fantastic. And he also did another instrumental tune that the Band of Gypsies had been knocking around in the 60s, but never recorded. And there's a version of that on the record with Buddy playing drums and, the rest of the band doing all that. So that's what he did with the record. But the other thing he did was he did a little concert in Clinton, New Jersey at this tiny studio of Black Potato Records. It couldn't have held more than 60 or 70 people. And Buddy came in and played with Rocking Horse as his pickup band.
Oh,
and
wow.
And this was a lot later. I wasn't in the band at this point, but I was still friends with him and stuff. So I came up on stage with him. He was behind the drum kit. And I stood right next to him with a microphone, and we did Who Knows. And then I blew harp with him on a bunch of songs. Buddy and I probably played together for close to 2 hours that night.
That's crazy to me. That's awesome.
Yeah, he was just an incredible guy, and he was like totally flirting with my wife all night. Joking around manner. But yeah, I mean. So yeah, and then I got a couple of Christmas cards from him after that, and he's the one who gave me the nickname Bad Bob, which is the name that I, from time to time comes out like on radio shows or whatever. But Buddy gave me that nickname back in '96 after I played with him, and I do have a tape of about maybe 30 minutes of that. I don't have the whole thing, but at least I've got some of it. So that's fun to go back and listen to from time to time.
Oh, absolutely. And this leads perfectly into this. So you were a tape trader back in the day, like myself, I'm assuming.
Yes.
Yeah. Wasn't that the best?
Yeah.
Wasn't that the best?
well, see, it's interesting because it wasn't real easy for me, Ray, to trade tapes because you had to do a lot of handwriting.
Yeah, with technology today, it wasn't available
like with
then.
technology now I can.
Yeah, of course.
Right. So it wasn't necessarily easy for me to write letters to people around the world and all that. So the side of it that I got into first was there was a guy in Chester, New Jersey, at the Chester Flea Market, who was an international bootleg dealer. Actually ended up getting eventually busted by the feds.
Good Lord.
but he was an amazing guy, and every dollar I earned from jobs and gigs and stuff all went to that guy. So I actually built up a lot of my initial collection, not through trading, but through buying from that guy.
Oh,
and then
okay.
I got more into the trading side once you could do it over the internet, because then the playing field was level. I could write my own emails to people instead of asking somebody else to do it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, of course.
So I still do that today.
Yeah. Oh, I'm aware, and we'll keep some things off the air.
Of course. Well, yes, of course. But I remember, man, you could do amazing stuff on the internet. I remember back in 2002, I was temporarily out of work, so I had a lot of time on my hands to build up my music collection, and I was trading in a lot of David Lee Roth era Van Halen. And there was a guy in Paris. What everybody used to do is you'd have Excel spreadsheets of everything that you had.
Right.
So it was real easy to cross-reference everything. So this guy in Paris had a whole bunch of stuff that this guy, who I also knew in Massachusetts, didn't have. And he had a bunch of stuff that the guy in Paris didn't have. So smartly, instead of introducing the two of them to each other, I just built up my own collection by trading to those guys through them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Like I would just say to the guy in Massachusetts, hey, I just got my hands on an amazing thing. Would you like it? And in return, I'd like blah, which was something from the guy from Paris wanted. So it's wild what you could do. And it's a lot of fun, and I really do sit down with my headphones and listen to these shows. Like I'm not one of these people who trades just for the sake of saying I own something. I love the quality. Sit down.
Yeah,
right. I love to sit down and listen to them, and because I can't see, it's real. If I got my good pair of headphones on and a real good audience recording of a concert on, because I can't see what's in front of me, it's real easy for me to get in my own head and imagine I'm at the concert. It's a lot of fun.
Oh, that brings me, and I have to mention this story because it was kind of the way I was introduced to you, but I didn't know it was you.
Okay.
And it was when you called into Eddie's show.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I didn't connect the dots at that time, because I didn't know who you were. But
right.
Eddie loved that call, and you brought such an interesting perspective. And it was when Judas Priest opened up for Kiss, probably around 79, 80 on the Dynasty tour.
Yep.
And well, I've got it right here. You mind if I play a little bit of it?
Go right ahead.
Go for it, brother.
Bob in Tennessee. Go ahead, Bob.
Hey, Eddie, I've been listening to you since the days of Metal Mania and Cheryl Richard when I lived in New Jersey.
Oh, my gosh, Bob, you are taking me back to my early years for sure. Bob, if I could, I would, being a longtime listener like that, I'd love to have you at my event in Vegas, but hey, Joel, I can't even just give somebody a pair of tickets over the air, can I? Isn't it all technical stuff, right, Joel?
Yeah, we got to do paperwork and stuff like that.
Just, I don't know. I'm sorry, but I can't. You used to be a day in radio, just say, Bob, I'm going to give you a pair of tickets. And I would just do it and put you on the list. But there's so much like legal mumbo jumbo these days. I can't do that over the radio. But Bob, if you're anywhere near Vegas, look for me. I would gladly get you in. I appreciate your longtime support.
It's all good, brother. I wasn't expecting anything but just to be able to talk to you, man.
Well, you're on the air, so what do you got to say, Bob?
All right. I got two. I did both Kiss lists, but I imagine there's only time for one, right?
You know what, Bob? You've been listening since the 80s. You give us both. Go ahead, man. The floor is yours.
All right. First of all, my very first rock concert was on the Dynasty tour, Kiss, 1979. But instead of the Garden, I went to Philly. You went to the Garden, right?
Yeah, but my first show was 77, December 16th at the Garden. And then the second was Dynasty Night 2 at the Garden.
Yeah, because in the Garden, you guys got New England as the opening act.
Right.
In Philadelphia, I got Judas Priest.
And I think Cheap Trick had some of that tour too, didn't they?
Yeah, they did part of it. But can you imagine the very first rock concert, the very first band that I ever heard coming into my ears was Rob Halford and those guys, and tore my head off, man.
Yeah, and the other thing that's interesting about that, because I never knew that Priest opened some Kiss shows on Dynasty. At that time, Dynasty obviously was the disco record. The disco song was the big hit. And here you have Priest, which were on the cusp of releasing British Steel and maybe at the height of their what Priest are. And man, I mean, that would almost, I mean, I'm sure Kiss with the big show and everything, but Priest would have been like a way heavier band at that time.
Mm-hmm. Well, here's what I wanted to tell you about this, and I told your producer when I called in. I have been totally blind since birth, so I've never seen anything. So all I have to go on is the music. You know, the costumes, the makeup, and all that mean absolutely nothing to me. And as excited as I was to see Kiss, because all I had to go on was the music, Priest blew them absolutely off the stage.
That's a really interesting perspective, Bob. I mean, that's not a perspective obviously most people would have, but yeah, you're going completely off of just audio and what something sounds like. You're not looking at the makeup, the fire, the bombs, and all of that. That's really interesting.
Are you there, Bobby?
Oh, I'm right here, brother.
Oh, man, that was such a great call.
Yeah.
To open Eddie's eyes like that.
It's the first time I ever talked to him, too. I had never, I've been listening to him for, at that point, 40 years, but I had never spoken with him.
Yeah.
It's awesome stuff, man. But yeah, it really was like that. I mean, Priests were just on fire.
Oh, they had to have been. And Kiss was like falling apart at that point.
Yeah, they weren't kind of falling apart. They were falling apart. And if you remember on that tour, they were also doing a couple songs from the solo records.
Oh, yeah. Gene did Radioactive, Paul did Move On, Ace did New York Groove, and Peter did Tossin' and Turnin', which is ridiculous.
Right. Well, yeah, Peter was a lot older than the rest of those guys.
Yeah. And he had kind of into a different kind of music.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad. Look, I had all four of them when they came out. I had the original ones that had the posters in them.
Oh, of course.
And
they pieced together. They pieced together. Yeah.
Right. Now, being blind, I threw all that shit out.
Yeah, of course. I forgot about that. I always forget about that. When I talk to you, Bob, that like goes right out the window with me sometimes.
No, but I don't expect you to remember, but it's just funny, like all the collectible stuff that used to come in albums back in the 70s, and I just threw it all out because all I cared about was the record inside.
Yeah.
Think of the thousands of dollars I threw away not even knowing I was doing it.
Yeah, and then because you were blind, from birth, and you never got that experience like opening the double albums and seeing that. No. I didn't even think of that, man.
Cover art. Cover art means nothing to me.
You could have it described, but
who cares?
It won't give it justice.
But so the one thing that I had like that was cool was the Motorhead double album compilation called No Remorse that came out in like 84, I think.
Was that the one in a leather pouch or no?
I had one.
Okay.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I had the leather cover, and the top of it was serrated like saw teeth. Like if you zipped your hand across it fast enough, you'd almost cut yourself. So that was cool because it felt different to me. But yeah, otherwise, the album covers, no. They just, I just got the records out of them and put them on. And then, of course, there were these old 8-track tapes. I had some of those, too.
Oh, of course.
Some questionable things used to go on with those 8-tracks.
Well, yeah, they would end abruptly and then fade into a weird part so we can start that.
Yeah, or like the track would change like right in the middle of the song.
Oh, yeah, well, the functionality of the equipment wasn't that great either. I was usually in like some parent's Datsun, and it would do all that kind of bullshit.
But yeah, I remember in '77 when Cat Scratch Fever came out, Ted Nugent.
Yep.
Somebody got it for me on 8-track as a Christmas present, and I'd already been into Nugent for a couple of years. I had an older sister who had a boyfriend who was really into them, so I was looking forward. I already heard Cat Scratch Fever, the song, on the radio. So I was really looking forward to this. So I get out the 8-track, I slip it into my little portable stereo player, and what do I hear but tinkling keyboards and a lilting female vocal? And
did they put the wrong tape in the cartridge?
That's exactly what they did, dude. The whole outside of it looked like Cat Scratch Fever, but the inside was Come In From the Rain from the Captain and Tennille.
You've not told me that one.
How great is that?
That's the fucking best, man.
And the funniest part
about it, you must have immediately thought, wow, Ted's really switched gears here.
That's what I thought. I'm like, he's setting us up for something. I know it. I just have to hang in and wait. I know he's going to come at me with something badass as soon as he gets done playing Can't Stop Dancing.
Oh, that is too funny, Bob.
Yeah, dude.
That's amazing.
You see why I had to get that in?
Yo, no shit. That one never happened to me. I do remember the 8-track days, though, man, and of course Columbia House and RCA and all that stuff where you get the
1 penny for
you tape the penny in, you get like 12 albums or cassettes depending on what era it was. Yeah, I loved it.
I was in the RCA record club back in the 70s.
Oh, okay. And, I was in the 80s.
Yeah, I had I got into music like real super early, so I had a record player.
Me too. My parents were already hogging the RCA sort of freebies, so I didn't get to.
Oh, that's too. No, but I stayed in the club, man. Even after I.
Well, see, I didn't. I did that. I did the lame thing because I guess I wasn't that evolved at that point and just looking for free shit because we weren't that wealthy kind of deal.
Yeah. I just, it was real hard for me to get to record stores, you know?
Yeah.
So if they could come to me through the mail, that would be like the one, like my parents would always knew I had records coming because that was the days that I was interested in going down to the mailbox. Hey, you want me to go down there?
yeah. Were your parents really cool with it, music and, there for you and things like that? I'm not trying to get Couch Howard Stern.
No, man. No, my parents are cool. They they're very square.
Yeah.
But
square's okay.
But they saw when I was real little, I didn't even play with toys. I used to get forks and spoons and bang on pots and pans and stuff.
Yeah, you were a musician from birth.
Yeah, so they were just like, well, let's see if we could channel this into something. And so the short story is when I was about 5 years old, my dad bought a used drum set off a guy. I think he paid like $60 for it or something. And I just loved this old crappy drum set. When I was 5 years old, I used to like play along with Kiss records and it was, it's just a lot of fun. I just naturally took to the drums and then they, my parents being smart people thought, well, it looks like he's got some ability. Maybe you should learn how to do this the right way. And that's when they got me into, a drum instructor.
Oh, okay.
And So even they were not at all into any of the music that I played, but they
Right.
always used to come to they would still come to the gigs anyway.
They were supportive. Yeah.
Yeah, they were real supportive, even though they didn't necessarily like the music. And I got to tell you, when you're in a band, everybody always comes to rehearse at the drummer's house because it's too hard to get your crap to someone else.
They don't come in travel size unless you're a bongo guy.
Yeah, so my poor parents, think of all the awful, seventh grade awful jam sessions going on down in the basement. It wasn't even just the gigs when I was actually good. It was all the time when I sucked, and they had to put up with that.
Yeah.
They're great. They're great.
That's awesome, man. Because I don't think we've talked about the dynamic with you and your parents growing up, but it sounds like they were very encouraging and supportive to me.
Sure.
Man, I know our time is limited here, but you've got to tell the story of what currently goes on with your drumming and the situation a little bit, unless it's too personal.
No, dude, I'm an open book, my friend.
I know you are, but I never know, so I just,
No, I am a big fat white guy, married to a wonderful black woman for 30 years, and we now live back down in southwest Tennessee where she grew up because, we got to help take care of the family and everything, and we're happy to do it.
Yep.
So her father preached for a very long time at this black church here in Jackson, Tennessee, and I play drums for them. So I'm the only white guy in the building.
I love that.
But you can see from the video, it's all groovy,
Oh yeah. And I bet they love you too. I'm gonna guess.
Oh, they do. They
do.
They,
Absolutely.
We have it's like one of those feel good stories, actually.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Everyone involved. That sounds like a feel good story. You said it correctly.
Cool. So that's my drumming now. I play drums at a black church.
Yep, I love it. I love, and I'm not pointing out the disability here, and I don't even consider it a disability with you because you're way cooler than me. But I like that you're the only white guy in there, and the drummer's blind.
Yeah,
it's the best. It's the fucking best.
I know. It's just like I think about the people who come in off the street just to check out the service.
Yeah.
And
look up. They see you.
They see me up on the drum riser. They must be thinking, what is going on in here?
oh man.
Yeah,
look,
man,
Bob, we better conclude this, and I could talk to you for days, I think. And we will
Likewise.
We will have a sequel to this because again, I could talk to you for hours, man, because we're both rock geeks, and
exactly.
It's
hey,
so awesome.
Mr. Ray,
yes, sir.
Do you mind if I say one thing? Real quick
not at all. Go ahead.
To anybody from the fan page who's checking this out, reach out to me. If you want to talk. I'm not very active in the group, because everything is visual. It's pictures, and I don't have pictures of any of the things I've done, and I can't see the pictures that y'all post. So I'm a nice guy. I'm just not around all that much.
That's subjective, but go ahead.
All right, I'm a shithead, but at least I'm not around all that much.
You're amazing. You're amazing, man.
Thanks, brother.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. And that's how Bob and I met, sort of through the radio show and the fan page, you know, and it's an honor now that I kind of know you and know who you are and what you're about. Our first conversation that night, Bob, when you were out of the group. I enjoyed it so much and learned so much from you, and realized, when you bring up earlier when John Mack mentioned kindred spirits, when,
Right.
you know, things like that, it was immediate. It was like, I've known this guy forever, you know?
Yep.
And it's
Instant connection.
Yep. Instant connection. And I thank you so much for doing this, man. I really appreciate it.
My genuine pleasure.
Well, I love you, love what you do. You're a amazing human being, man. Your stories are fascinating. You're very bright. And it's great to meet somebody like you. So it was really, you know, I consider myself, you know, and you, I think we're friends.
I would say so.
Yeah,
We haven't
you
met
know-
yet, but I feel like we have already.
Yeah. And we are going to hook up and hang out at some point, right?
I am looking forward to it. I am absolutely looking forward to it. I was saying to your wife earlier, man, if the two of us ever get in a room, I don't know if we'll ever get out.
Oh yeah. That could be a whole TV series or something.
Yeah, get a lot of beer.
Yep.
You know.
You can bring your little apparatus or whatever you do.
Oh, it's always with me. It's in fact, it's right here.
How about you leave us with one?
All right. To all the girls I've loved before, who traveled in and out my door.
Loved before.
I traveled in and out my door. I'm glad they came along. I dedicate this song. It's my horrible Willie Nelson impression.
Yeah, it
and
almost
I thank
came out
you.
like Groucho Marx.
Say the secret word and win $100. You bet you. All right, now here we go. So I'm going to smoke a shout. All right.
Okay, go for it.
This is Bad Bob saying, "Have a hell of a day."
All right. Thank you, my brother, for doing this. Bye-bye. There he goes, guys. Bob Kanish. Love his stories. I could talk to the guy for days.